And round about, in feral light, the fires of deathandhell.com danced at night. Have the gates of deathandhell.com been opened unto thee? Been opened unto thee?
Charles Hitzheimer just wanted to be immortalized as he was in the transitory time of the 90s, the psychedelic plane-dwelling satanic writer born a product of the chaos and rebellion of the 60s. He wanted to be remembered as the persona he had created under his internet handle, Infect Bin Laden, not the man he was, plagued by constant hallucinations from years of severe drug abuse and the ghost of his sister. He was a haunted man who in the middle of his life would discover a malignant cancer which would leave nothing left of him but the website he had created. Born of his strange mind and bathed in his beliefs, deathandhell.com is still somehow running nearly 2 decades after his death, and remains one of the strangest websites on the surface web.
This is the weirdest shit I have ever seen. I've seen a lot. Now, I'm an a-religious person, but this kind of fucked up nutbag shit makes me want to head for the nearest confession box, crucifix in hand. Failing that, it's off to the synagogue for me. Shalom, a normal person. Signed, Mr. X.
At its core, deathandhell.com is a collection of short stories describing the various means in which a religious organization, dubbed the Church of Latter-day Satanists, operate, and in so doing, oppose a shadowy cabal of plutocrats who hawk hyper-processed foods and oppress the public. However, the stories themselves are not so simple as this, as nearly none actually contain any events. Moreover, they mainly contain rants regarding necrophilic sodomy, satanic rituals to an ambiguous godhead, and the collection of a kind of seminal fluid used in the rituals. Much of it ends up sounding similar to an infomercial for these rituals.
Effective conventional sex magic can be quite wasteful in regards to fluid production, and often takes a heavy toll on the mortal body. So what do? As we move into the final 1,000-year reign of Satan, fluid retention is one of, if not the most effective method of prolonging orgasms. You can get your hot vessel cadaver off literally hundreds, thousands, or even millions of times for only a fraction of the fluid loss of traditional rape and mutilation. The wave of future sex magicians is here. Don't miss it. Let us create your orgasms for you. We have gone through painstaking methods to ensure that we have the highest quality hot vessel cadavers and orgasm production facilities on this planet. We create your orgasm for you. All you have to do is desire it.
Other parts of the website describe strange, sexual-based religious rituals, and still other sections describe the author's probably fictitious, drug-fueled run-ins with world leaders, completely separate from the underlying story. In the opening piece before you enter the website, the author sets up the reader's expectations with what he intended the website to be.
In the 18 months before my death, I proceeded to set forth the keys to death and hell. In this process, I envisioned a snapshot of the world as it appeared to me at that time. Literally a cut-up. A cut-and-paste sculpture taken from various articles, science fiction, cultural, and political events happening in the realms of a culture. Somehow, from this cut-up leaked out the most beautiful vision of infinite compassion, and this vision came forth and stood forth even amongst all the horror. It shone through so bright, really true, and undeniably real. There was more compassion and love for me than I had ever dreamed or imagined. It was like a garden paradise all around me, blooming with beauty and love. It was there all the time, this unbelievable garden, and it opened up to me. Even though death and hell may look like it is all dark, all black, and all horror, right there, glimmering on the other side, is infinite compassion.
If you're not the squeamish sort who is put off by many of the disgusting pieces of artwork that precede the reading of these passages, I would encourage you to visit the site and read from his biography, as well as the opening piece. These pieces together form a kind of quilt that help weave together the kind of person Charles was in life, with his love Andrea and daughter Heidi, but also his persona online. In the mid-90s, he was part of an online e-list, basically an online forum powered by email that was popular at the time, based around strange occult beliefs and chaos magic called the Z-List. Created by a man named Mark DeFreitas, the Z-List was a group popular only among a very particular group of people with eclectic occult beliefs. The group included people like user Sacred Blasphemies, who I caught up with to ask about the group.
It was very active in its day, but it lived online. Maybe those who were local got together, particularly in the Bay Area or Seattle, where several people lived. Out of the Z-List itself, I was a regular of the Vortex, which was a IRC chat room where a lot of Z's hung out. It was like the Mos Eisley cantina of occultists.
The Z-List thrived for many years, but given that this information was all transmitted over email, it is unlikely any of these posts still exist. The list was popular until the early 2000s, when flame wars between Infect and other users and shitposts began to engulf the community, and users like Sacred branched off.
It wasn't my thing, but Infect typed hundreds of pages of flames. I don't feel I missed out on anything for not reading them.
There are likely more isolated pockets of occultists that gathered to discuss various topics, but I would venture to say the Z-List was the progenitor of many of them. Although in the late 90s the owner estimated they only had about 100 active members, these members doubtlessly went on to contribute to other communities after the E-List dissolution. Charles was a regular contributor to the Z-List and inscribed many of his strange arguments with other users in the community onto his website in various sections. But this is all hidden under tens of thousands of words of strange occultist text and written accounts of his and others' many, many drug trips. Perhaps the most memorable part of the website, to me at least, is his biography, where he details many instrumental moments in his life and strange encounters. In this section, he details the many times the ghost of his sister communicated with him and those he cared about, once saving the life of his friend from a car accident.
There was also a series of dreams and visions associated with this, which gives it even more symbolic import. I seriously hope these experiences are just neurons misfiring. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pay for all my crimes against nature.
He details his first run-in with magic, one that would have an undeniable effect on him later in life as he would go on to take these concepts of occultism website. When he was a child, he lost a bucket and sand shovel to the surf. When learning of this, his grandmother said, "Don't worry, I'll have them back for you in the morning."
As I stood watching the sunrise, the lone figure approached. As soon as I recognized it was my grandmother, I ran to greet her. She was carrying the bucket and shovel. I knew they'd be there this morning, just like I promised you. From that moment on, I never doubted the power of magic.
It's clear from these more tender parts of the website that he intended the website to remain much longer than he did. According to reports from his peers on online forums at the time, Infect struggled with cancer and knew his death was imminent perhaps months before his actual passing, sometime around 2002. I scoured the message board of the website looking for messages relating to his death and only found one, the very last post made on the website in July 2002.
Fine. Great, Infect. Compassion it is. Hope you are well and whole. In chaos. Signed, St. Stephen.
And this only minor online outpouring of support after his death that was visible seems to run contrary to how Charles had described his support net around his death. After all, maybe many were just tired of his constant flame war, shitposting, and seemingly race baiting. He was a draft dodger who got out of duty by claiming he was unfit for service due to behavioral issues and the massive amount of LSD he had ingested over the last 3 years, which a doctor confirmed had caused him unending hallucinations. And there is the problem with what he went by online. After all, his handle was an incredibly unsavory one. And although he adopted this online handle before 9/11, he still made no visible attempt to change it and often referred to himself as a terrorist in the website. But those who knew him say he was a much different person offline than he was on.
I only spent a few hours with Infec. He was quite nice in person and fun to hang out with. He was into his drugs and his martial arts. Online he was an asshole, and his online persona didn't match his in-person persona.
Said user reads in bars. Charles is gone now. By now his daughter Heidi is an adult, living her own life, no doubt. We can speculate as much as we want about what caused such a man seemingly adjusted to create such a grotesquely strange website, but to no use. This is how Charles wants to be remembered, with death and hell. And obviously someone agreed with the final mausoleum to his memory, as the website is still being operated today, albeit with no updates in the last decade and a half. I'll leave you with a passage from his bio section where he speaks about a conversation he had with his sister regarding death.
My sister and I used to speculate about life after death all the time. When I was around 12 years old, my sister and I made a pact that whichever of us were the first to die, that we would do whatever we could to leave a sign for the other one. We're the first to go. Leave a sign to let us know. Carry the lantern high. If you enjoyed this video, or anything in this resonated with you, please leave a comment in the section below with your experience, or leave a like to help grow the channel. If you would like to see similar content, please consider subscribing below. And if you have any ideas for future videos, please drop me a line in the comments section, or send me a message. Thank you all for your support. It's greatly appreciated.
Created by a man named Mark DeFraudy.